Good evening, chat. Hello. It's Monday night, St. Patrick's Day, and yeah, it's a little different. We had as I got done for the day, some shit went down with El Presidente. So we're going to be talking about that. We are going to be hitting this up here. It's very important. And also, we have Clyde. He's like, "Hello, people." He's like, "Fat man, I need treats." So we're going to do that. Yes, happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. Sadly, St. Patrick did not come back to purge the snakes out of Washington, D.C. Maybe one day he will come and do that for us. Maybe one day he will come and do that for us, but not today, sadly, chat. Not today. Anyways, welcome to the show, guys. My name is Sean, also known as Potentially Criminal. I am an attorney in the Cleveland, Ohio area, and this is Clyde, the goodest boy ever, the best doggo. And he, he's not going to hang out with us forever, but we are going to be talking about Trump versus Tren de Aragua. Trump versus Tren de Arugula. That's right, those leafy boys out of Venezuela. And what's going on with the Alien Enemy Act? That's right, Chad. If you see an alien, that's right, globalist. You and your alien underlings, you're all enemies. What does this actually mean? And how do the aliens? How are they enemies? Because apparently, like the Greys are bad, and the reptilians are bad. But there's supposedly some good aliens out there. You know, like ET, they're the good aliens. Oh. Nate Matthews says, I got the documents. Yes. Alex Jones is right again, globalist. Yes, he is. He's always right. He's always right. All right, buddy. Can I set you on the ground? I gotta set you on the ground. Notice I'm not saying put him down. I'm gonna set you on the ground, Bubba Bear. Say goodbye to everybody. Nothing about building. He's like, nobody wants to talk about Building 7 tonight. And I'm like, fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. All right, guys. So we are going to get into this. There's been a lot that's happened, and it all happened over the weekend. And at times I'm going to tell you some of this is based. Some of this I don't like, and we're going to get into the parts I don't like because, like I said, there's some of this that I don't think is good. I have my concerns about parts of this, but we'll get to those parts when we get to them. So, guys, we are live tonight on Rumble. We're on Twitter, and we are on YouTube. It's like, duh, that's the thing I'm looking at here. But so we are getting into this. So if you guys don't know, Tren de Aragua, they are a Venezuelan street gang. They operate out of Venezuela. And if you guys, Venezuela is down on the north edge of South America. It is an oil-rich country run by a socialist. That's right. An oil nation, and they can't fucking make it work. So it's a little bit of a... Yeah. Like how you... So here's how this starts. This all started with... And hold on here, chat. Damn it, I just had something and I clicked it and it disappeared. Where is... Okay. So we are going to start with a couple of weeks ago when the State Department, through the president, did something kind of straight out of Sicario. And the cartels and various organizations were designated as foreign terrorist organizations. And then specially designated global terrorist. Now, you might say, wow, that's kind of serious. And yes, that was done pursuant to executive order. And Trump, one of these people, died. So what happened? Well, the groups of organizations on this, like ISIS is a foreign, terrorist organization. Like Hezbollah is a foreign designated terrorist organization. Hamas is a foreign designated terrorist organization. Like, there are real entities that are designated this shit. Like, it is a real thing, and it's a list of things that it's a list you never want to be on. You never want to be on it. And they have an entire list of them. And if you guys have never heard of, like, I mean, and we're gonna just show you some of the names. They're they're names of people you have heard of. It's like going through. It's like listing the rock album of the '60s collection. You can see different things on here. You can see the Haqqani Network is one of them. If you guys know Boko Haram, there's all kinds of organizations that are on this. The Communist Party of the Philippines. Some of you might be like, based on that one. Okay, fair. But the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade out of the West Bank. They are. All these groups. Hamas in 1997. Abu Sayyaf. Al-Qaeda. Hezbollah. The Kurdistan Workers' Party. The PKK. All kinds of groups out there. The Palestinian Liberation Front. I mean, this is kind of Shining Path. Down south. In South America. There's all kinds of organizations that are part of it, but more recently, there have been all kinds, though, like ISIS in Libya, Al-Qaeda in India, the Khorasan province, ISIS-K. They're the guys who were behind the bombing of the Marines as we withdrew from Afghanistan. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the Iranian government's long-range special reach organization. It's what the Quds Force is part of. The Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, the FARC, more commies, MS-13, Tren de Aragua, the Carteles Unidos, the Gulf Cartel, the CJNG, the Cartel de Jalisco Nueva Generacion, the Sinaloa Cartel, and the Ansar Allah. Like, everybody's on this list now. We see our boys, Trio de Arugula. They're on the list. They are on the list. So that shows you they are now foreign terrorist organizations. And that becomes a thing. And this was a special designation the State Department put out on the 20th. So about little under a month ago. But they talked about it. These guys are foreign terrorist organizations, specifically designated global terrorists. And TDA is a transnational organization that operates primarily out of Brazil, but they're all over Colombia, Peru, and Chile. They have a presence in Ecuador, Bolivia, and Brazil. They've done a lot here. So that is where we start with this. And then over the weekend, we move on to this. A proclamation by the President of the United States. The invocation of the Alien Enemies Act regarding the invasion of the United States by Tren de Aragua. I forget how the fuck you pronounce it. I don't know how you pronounce it, but whatever. They don't deserve my respect. So TDA is a foreign designated terrorist organization with thousands of members, many whom have lawfully infiltrated the United States. I mean, if there are many who have unlawfully infiltrated, does that mean some have lawfully infiltrated? That right there, I'm like, what? What's going on there, buddy? What's going on there? How you say that? They're conducting irregular warfare and undertaking hostile actions against the United States. Now, I get it, they're a terrorist organization, but what unconventional warfare have they done? I'm curious. But they operate in conjunction with the Cartel de los Soles, a Nicolas Maduro regime-sponsored. If you guys don't know who Maduro is, Maduro, and I'm not talking about, you're like, oh, a port? No, like the drink of the Duaro River Valley. No. Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela. He took over after Hugo Chavez. And he's not being a good communist yet. That's him, though. So it's a regime-sponsored narco-terrorism enterprise based in Venezuela. They commit brutal crimes, including murders, kidnapping, extortion, human and drug trafficking, and weapons trafficking. They've engaged and continue to engage in mass illegal migration to the United States to further its objectives of harming U.S. citizens, undermining safety, and supporting the Maduro regime, destabilizing nations in the Americas, including the United States. Now they point out that TDA is aligned with the Maduro regime, and they have infiltrated it in the law enforcement apparatuses. And this is where you learn about how Venezuela is set up. There's so many fucking weird people there. There are so many. Um there are so many weird things there. Um because you have like the vice president there, Tarek Asami. He's from Syria. His dad's from Syria, his mom's from Lebanon. They're both Druze. So it's weird. And he's down in Venezuela. And his uncle is an affiliate, was a close affiliate of Saddam Hussein. It was a member of the Ba'ath Party. So it's like, you're like, what the hell is up with this guy? But he is the former vice president of Venezuela. He's also been the minister of petroleum. You know, he's done a lot of things. So, yes, he's been involved in a lot of things here. So, just so you know, Venezuela's got a lot of fucking weird shit going on. But anyways, he served as the governor of the province between 2012 and 2017. In 2017, became vice president. And soon thereafter, they designated him as a specially designated narcotics trafficker under the Kingpin Designation Act, meaning he's under indictment in the United States, kind of like Noriega and El Chapo. So he's got a lot of problems if he ever gets arrested. And that said, though, both of them, Maduro claims to act as the president. And they're saying claims to act because remember the Venezuelans had their revolution a while back, and they had a guy named Juan Guaido that we were pushing for a while. Then his revolution fell apart. But where we are now is we are going on to talk. So, but anyways, Maduro's in charge. They maintain close ties with regime-sponsored narco terrorists. That's not unique at all. I mean, Noriega did it. That's you work with your thugs. You work with the thugs you have. Anyways, they use TDA and other organizations to flood the United States with drugs. They say over the years, the Venezuelan authorities have ceded ever greater control over their territories to transnational criminal gangs, including TDA. The result is a hybrid criminal state that is perpetuating an invasion and a predatory incursion into the United States, and which possesses a substantial danger to the United States. Indeed, in December 2024, Interpol, yes, chat, that Interpol, in Washington confirmed that TDA has emerged as a significant threat to the United States as it infiltrates migration flows from Venezuela. And the evidence demonstrates that TDA has invaded the United States and continues to invade, attempts to invade, and threatens to invade the country, perpetuate irregular warfare within the country, and use drug trafficking as a weapon against our citizens. And remember, I told you I kind of had concerns about labeling drug groups as terrorist organizations and what that could lead to. Well, this becomes a thing now. You're arguing drug trafficking is a weapon. I'm like, that's not necessarily how I view the Alien Enemy Act to be done. But we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that here. Venezuela's like the Somalia of South America. I mean, a little bit. So it says, based on a review and consulting with the Attorney General, and pursuant to the authority in 8 U.S.C. 1189, the Secretary of State designated him as an FTO. And then he says, as President of the United States, it is my solemn duty to protect the American people from the devastating effects of the invasion. Now, therefore, Donald John Trump, and say, yes, as President of the United States of America, by the authority vested in me by the Constitution under Article 2 and the laws of the United States, including the Alien Enemies Act, 50 U.S.C. 21, and hereby proclaim and direct as follows. Now, yes, the Alien Enemies Act of 1789 was recodified by Congress. And he says, I declare, find and declare, and you'll talk about why does a proclamation matter, I proclaim. We'll get to that. TDA is perpetrating, attempting, and threatening an invasion or predatory incursion against the territory of the United States. TDA is undertaking hostile actions and conducting irregular warfare against the territory of the United States, both directly and at the direction clandestine, meaning secretly, or otherwise, of the Maduro regime in Venezuela. I make these findings based on the full extent of my authority to conduct the nation's foreign affairs under the Constitution. Remember, chat, Article 2, he's the only person with foreign affairs powers, not Congress, not the courts. Based on these findings and by the authority vested in me, I proclaim that all Venezuelan citizens 14 years of age or younger, or 14 years of age and older, who are members of TDA that are within the United States and are not actually naturalized or lawful permanent residents of the United States. Notice that's a big thing here. He has to say that because if you're naturalized, things are different. If you're lawfully a permanent resident, like a green card holder, things are different. Are liable to be apprehended, restrained, secured, and removed as enemy aliens. I further find and declare that all such members of TDA are, by virtue of their membership in that organization, chargeable with actual hostility against the United States and are therefore ineligible for the benefits of 15 U.S.C. 22. He says, I find, and that we're going to get to what that means there, okay? Further, I find and declare that such members of TDA are a danger to the public and safety in the United States. And he says, I direct the Attorney General within 60 days of the day of this proclamation to prepare and publish a letter under her signature declaring the policy in Section 1 as the policy of the United States and attaching this proclamation. I direct the Attorney General to transmit this letter to the Chief Justice of the United States, the Chief Judge of every Circuit Court of Appeals, the Chief Judge of every District and Territorial Court of the United States, each governor of a state and territory of the United States, and the highest-ranking judicial officer of each state and territory of the United States. He says, I direct that all enemy aliens or alien enemies in Section 1 are subject to immediate apprehension, detention, and removal, and further, they shall not be permitted residents of the United States. Pursuant to the Act, the Attorney General and Homeland Security shall, consistent with applicable law, apprehend, restrain, secure, and remove every alien enemy described. The Secretary of Homeland Security retains discretion to apprehend and remove any alien enemy under any separate authority. Meaning that even though I say this, you retain discretion to remove them under any law that applies. Any other authority, any other enabling statute, any other thing that allows you to do it, you can still do it. And we'll get to why that's a thing coming up. We'll get to why that's a thing here. We'll get to why that's a thing here. So, yeah, Tachyon Black says, careful. We're trying to authorize war, not a congressional field trip. Oh, no. Are you saying that Congress is full of pedophiles? Well, you're probably correct. So, yes, fair enough, sir. Fair enough. Oh. So, all executive departments and agencies shall collaborate with law enforcement officials of the United States and appropriate state, local, and tribal officials to use all means to apprehend, restrain, secure, and remove alien enemies. And he says, pursuant to my authority under 50 U.S.C. 21 to direct the conduct to be exerted on the part of the United States toward that enemy subject to this, to direct the manner and degree of restraint which such enemy aliens should be subject to, and in what cases to provide for removal, and to establish any other regulations which are found necessary in the premise and for the public safety. So he tells the Attorney General, Secretary of Homeland Security to execute all the regulations contained regarding the alien enemies described in Section 1. The Attorney General and Secretary of Homeland Security are further directed to cause the apprehension, detention, and removal of all members of TDA who qualify as aliens under Section 1 of this proclamation. They are authorized to take all necessary actions under the Act to effectuate this proclamation consistent with applicable law. In doing so, and for such purpose, they are authorized to utilize agents, agencies, and officers of the government of several states, territories, dependencies, and municipalities thereof, and of the District of Columbia. It says, all such guests, agencies, and officers are hereby granted full authority for all acts done by them in execution of such regulations, when acting by direction of the Attorney General or the Secretary of Homeland Security, as the case may be. So anybody who's involved in assisting them has full authority from the President of the United States. So, and he goes on to just describe here how this works. And he says, I declare and establish the following regulations I find necessary in the premise for public safety. So, all such enemy aliens with any territory subject to the jurisdiction of the United States are subject to summary apprehension. Any such alien who attempts to enter or is found within the territory shall be immediately apprehended and detained until removed. That enemy aliens apprehended pursuant to this proclamation shall be subject to detention until removed from the United States at such a place of detention as may be directed by the officers responsible for the execution. Foreign enemies shall be subject to removal to any such location as may be directed by the officers responsible of these regulations consistent with applicable law. All property in the possession or traceable to an alien enemy which is intended to be used, or is commonly used to perpetuate hostile activity, shall be subject to seizure and forfeiture. They also point out the Secretary of Homeland Security to issue any guidance necessary to assure and effectuate the prompt apprehension, detention, or removal. And this proclamation and the directives shall extend and apply to all land and water, continental or insular, in any way within the jurisdiction of the United States. And he said, I have hereunto set my hand this 14th day of March, in the year of our Lord 2025, and the independence of the United States of America for the 249th. And that's right, chat, because we are coming up on the 250th birthday, but we're not there yet. So he invoked the Alien Enemies Act. What does that mean, actually? Well, the guys didn't know what that means. We're going to back up and we're going to take a look at it. Because here is the Alien Enemies Act. 50 USC 3. Alien enemies. Must mean there's alien friends. So we're going to talk about this. This is super short, guys, so don't panic. Look how long this provision is. That's it. Restraint, regulation, and removal. The 3 R's. 3 R's. This sounds like a Contra video game, yes. It says, whenever there's a declared war between the United States and any foreign nation or government. Well, there's not one of those, so we can't use that. Or any invasion or predatory incursion is perpetrated, attempted, or threatened against a territory of the United States by any foreign nation or government. Now, remember, that's how they're arguing TDA is part of the Venezuelan government. The president and the president makes a public proclamation of the event. All native citizens, denizens, or subjects of the hostile nation or government being of the age of 14 years and upward, who shall be within the United States and not actually naturalized, shall be liable to be apprehended, restrained, secured, and removed as alien enemies. The president is authorized in any such event by his proclamation thereof or other public act to direct the conduct to be observed on the part of the United States towards aliens who become so liable. The manner and degree of restraint which they shall be subject, and in what cases and upon what security the resident shall be permitted, and to provide for the removal of those not being permitted to reside within the United States, refuse or neglect to depart therefrom, and to establish any other regulations which are necessary in the premises and for the public safety. So this is just how he's pointing out, this is how I invoke it. I have to proclaim. I have to make a public proclamation. So the time allowed to settle affairs and depart. This is where he talks about it's not eligible for them. He said they are not eligible for this because, well, there's no time. To quote the great Jack Bauer. He says because we're in actual hostility, this doesn't apply. If you guys remember, going back to here, he cites this part here where he's saying, with actual hostility against the United States, chargeable with actual hostility against the United States, and are therefore ineligible for the benefits under 22. That's where he's gunning this part from. So what do they say in this one here? So they say when an alien becomes liable as an enemy and in the manner prescribed in Section 21 is not chargeable with actual hostility or other crime against the is not chargeable with actual crime against the public safety, he shall be allowed for the recovery, disposal, and removal of his goods and effects, and for his departure the full time which is or shall be stipulated by any treaty then enforced between the United States and the hostile nation or government. And this is something, guys, you're like, why would this be there? This was a traditional thing in treaties. Like, this is stuff that would be worked out and agreed to. They point out if there's something there, then we have to abide by it. And where no such treaty exists or is enforced, the president may ascertain and declare such reasonable time as may be consistent with the public safety. So that's how they do this. But notice, you're not being charged. If you're being charged with actual hostility, though, you're kind of screwed. So right now he's saying TDA is being charged with actual hostility, so none of this applies. And it says the jurisdiction of the United States courts and judges. Now, this one's important. After any such proclamation has been made, the several courts of the United States having criminal jurisdiction and the several justices and judges of the courts of the United States are authorized, and it shall be their duty upon complaint against any alien enemy resident and at large within such jurisdiction or district to the danger of the public peace or safety, and contrary to the tenor and intent of such proclamation or other regulations which the president may have established, to cause such alien to be duly apprehended and conveyed before such court, judge, or justice, and after full examination and hearing on such complaint and sufficient cause appearing, to order such alien to be removed out of the territory of the United States, or to give sureties for his good behavior, meaning you can post a bond if you promise to be a good boy, or to be otherwise restrained conformably to the proclamation or regulations as established aforesaid, and to imprison or otherwise secure such alien to the order which may be so made shall be performed. So the court does have some ability here, that there is a jurisdictional thing. We're going to get to why jurisdiction is an issue. It says duties of marshals. They're saying it shall be the duty of marshal to bring that person before court, cause of removal, and ordering the same. That's not really important for us. So what happened? What happened from here? Well, over the weekend, a couple of planes got loaded up, and they made their way to El Salvador. You guys have not seen this. This is what happened. There were 7, these planes were sent down to El Salvador, and that's right, El Salvador. Now, supposedly there's about 238 people on these planes. Most of them were TDA members. Some of them were MS-13s and El Salvadorans. And it makes sense. If we're going to send El Salvadorans back home, we send them to El Salvador. You got to go back. But we're sending Venezuelans to El Salvador. That's the part I don't like here. This very much borders on a rendition to me at this point. And that's my concern. Send them back to Venezuela. I don't care if you have to strap a parachute to them and throw them out the fucking door over Caracas. Do that. But this idea that we're going to send them to El Salvador to a prison, that doesn't sit well with me. So, a fuzzy creature saying rendition actually illegal. I mean, it kind of all depends on who's in charge, but yeah, really. But here's the thing: there's free skydiving lessons. But yeah, that's my only problem. That's my biggest problem here is we basically rendition these guys. But anyways, these are the guys arriving in El Salvador at the airport. I mean, this shit is like theatrical, the El Salvadoran government. Here you go. We're going to watch this. You guys didn't remember, El Salvador has done a massive crackdown on their fucking gangs. It's fucking creepy down there. Now, here's the thing, chat. What has been done to verify these guys are MS-13s or TDAs and are bad guys? The problem is we don't know. And right now the government's saying that's a TTP we can't discuss. Tactic, technique, procedure. They're saying it's classified. So I don't know. So we don't actually know who these people are at this point. That's a shame, says by fucking creepy, you mean fucking based. Well, I mean, the way they're doing it down there, I don't know. So, yes. Not sure it says President Bukaki or Bukele ain't fucking around. And CCOT is not a nice place. Yes. Christopher Dolan says, do you not see the MS-13 tattoo on their faces? Well, some of them are MS-13 and TDA. But some of them, I'm assuming, if they don't have a face tattoo, how are you going to tell? But yes, if they're running around with all their MS-13 shit on, it's like, okay, get on the fucking plane. So, PSEC, I was trying to say, yes, I understand this guy's a gang member. How do we know about everyone else? This isn't the CCOT prison. Like, it's the terrorism prison where all the Salvadoran gangsters are. And some of you are wondering why they force their head down. It's so they can control you and you can't see what's going on. If you don't do what they say, they beat the fuck out of you.
Nombre. César Eliseo Sotomaya.
Anyways, this is just them showing them getting all brought in, buzzing them down. And then, yeah, this is the prison. This is the prison here. And this is what they have. They have like the rack style beds. So they got a special room cleared out for them. Yeah. So imagine if Sean got on my hair shaved. Yes. Pepsi Man's right. They get Norwood as soon as they get into the prison. Yes. The Reaper comes for you all, chat. Even me, the Reaper's coming. Just not today. Not today. Oh. Oh. Oh, so they actually had ground intel. Okay, as most were self-identifying. Okay, well, the tranny de-arugulas, then good. Fuck them all. Fuck them all, chat, if that's what we're doing. Then fuck them all. That makes me feel better. That makes me feel better they're doing the right work. I wonder how Bukele's keeping the guards from getting corrupted. I'm sure he's paying them really well as top of things. Like the Salvadorans are fucking sick of the way things were going in their country too. Helps a lot. So, anyways, that's where they're going. That's what's happening. So, what happened from here? Well, obviously, somebody filed a lawsuit. That lawsuit was filed on Saturday. And you're like, wait, courts aren't open. Yeah, well, when you're doing special, they get special access. So they got to do this. These were filed by a couple of guys, JGG, not DGG, chat. JGG. They're using pseudonyms because these are people currently held in detention centers. So GFF, JGO, WGH, and JAV. And it says they're being done as they're being done under pseudonyms. That's a class action complaint and a writ for habeas corpus. Now notice they're all still in America. These 5 guys are in America. Just in different places. Except for one. One's in New York, the rest are in Tejas. So, when you talk about Trump trying to validate the Biden pardons, if we have time for that tonight, yes. If we have time, we will do it. Well, we got to get through this first. So they file their complaint. And they show Trump, Pam Bondi, Christie Noem, because they're all right there. The Department of Homeland Security, they're going after Madison Sheehan because she's the acting director of ICE. They're going after ICE, Marco Rubio, Little Marco. Although Little Marco's acting like a big man nowadays. Trump put his hand on his shoulder and he says, Marco, you're not little anymore. You're a big man. Go forth and do my will. And Marco's like, Marco, smash. And the U.S. State Department that says they're going under pseudonyms and it's been filed with the complaint alongside it. They filed separately. Spoiler alert, that got granted. So they say that the plaintiffs are Venezuelan men in immigration custody, threatened with imminent removal under the Proclamation invoking the Alien Enemies Act. It's a wartime measure that's only been used 3 times in our history. That's true. In 1812, World War I, and World War II. That's right, chat. We went back-to-back champs. The proclamation's expected to authorize immediate removal of non-citizens deemed to be alien enemies without any opportunity for judicial review. Yes, that's how it works. It also contorts the plain language of the AEA. Arrivals of non-citizens in Venezuela are deemed an invasion or predatory incursion by a foreign nation or government, where TDA, a Venezuelan gang, is deemed sufficiently akin to a foreign nation or government. Well, if they're operating in conjunction with one or with the tacit support of one, yeah, they are kind of like an agent of them. But the AEA has only been a power invoked in time of war and plainly only applies to warlike actions. It cannot be used here against nationals of a country, Venezuela, with whom the United States is not at war, which has not invaded the United States, and which has not launched a predatory incursion into the U.S. I mean, it depends where you act. I'm betting a lot of people would disagree, especially in the Colorado area. So the government's proclamation would allow agents to immediately put non-citizens on planes without any review of any aspect of the determination that they're an alien enemy. Funny you say that, because that's what happened. They're like, no, they could do stuff. It's like, yeah, they did. They put people on fucking airplanes. Zoom. Send them out, chat. Send them out. So they argue that nothing's happened here. They bring in taxes to summarily remove them and do so for judicial review, including this court. They say for that notice, also real quick, chat, big thing you need to realize. Notice a lot of these guys are in Texas. They're not filing in Texas or New York. They're in the District of Columbia. They're filing in D.C. District Court, which, it's funny, isn't it? Funny, isn't it? But why wouldn't you do it down in Tejas? So they're doing this under a couple of different acts. They want it to stop. They're doing it under the Alien Enemies Act. They're doing it under the Administrative Procedures Act, the Immigration and Nationality Act, the INA, the Conventions Against Torture. And they're saying, see the Foreign Affairs Reform and Restructuring Act of 1998. And they're also doing the All Writs Act. And notice that's something we're seeing all the time now. And the Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution. And they say this court has subject matter jurisdiction because it's also a habeas corpus petition. Remember, chat, those are one of the writs. There's the writ habeas corpus, the writ of certiorari, proscendendo, prohibition, mandamus. Those are all things you can get. Writ of quoranto. Those are all things there. They want to seek Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution, the suspension clause. That's a federal question. Yeah, it definitely is. The United States is a defendant. Mandamus. And the All Writs Act. And the defendants have waived their sovereign immunity for purposes of the suit pursuant to 5 U.S.C. 702 and 706. They say venue is proper here because the defendants are agents of the United States or officers of the U.S. acting in their capacity. And a substantial part of the omissions giving rise to this occurred in this district. Yeah, it did. No, chat, not Matt Damon. It said the plaintiffs. They're talking about this guy, JGG, is a Venezuelan national who's detained at El Valle Detention Center in Tejas. And he's at imminent risk of removal. He is seeking asylum, withholding of removal, and the Convention Against Torture protections because he fears being killed, arbitrarily imprisoned, beaten, and tortured by Venezuelan police since they have done so previously to him. During an interview with ICE, he was detained because the officer erroneously suspected him of being a TDA member on account of his tattoos. And he says JGG is a professional tattoo artist, and his 2 tattoos, a rose and a skull on his leg, which cover a monkey tattoo that he no longer liked, and an eye with a clock inside of it. A fellow tattoo artist applied his practice, are neither associated with TDA. While he's waiting on the hearing of his merits for his asylum, he was awakened at 2 on March 6th and was told that he was being released and he had to sign documents that were available only in English. He signed the documents under a false pretense. Instead of being released, he was abruptly and without explanation transferred to Tejas. While in Tejas, he got awoken on March 14th and told without explanation he was going to be transferred elsewhere. He was not transferred because the plane had malfunctioned. He fears he will be removed under the proclamation because he has tattoos, despite not being involved whatsoever with TDA and despite his ongoing asylum proceedings. Well, we'll see about that. We'll see about that. JV is a Venezuelan national upon imminent belief of removal. He seeks asylum. He seeks asylum because of his political views and because of mistreatment from gangs, including TDA. At his asylum interview on February 27th, he was arrested and interrogated by ICE, during which time they questioned him about TDA. And he has never been a member. He was, in fact, victimized by the group, and the group is the reason he can't return to Venezuela. So on March 9th, he was transferred with a group of people to Texas. And notwithstanding the fact he has a master calendar hearing scheduled for March 19th, he was told on the 14th that he's being removed in preparation with a later group of Venezuelans. He was since informed that he'll be put on a plane on March 15th or Sunday, March 16th. He fears being deported, being unable to speak with his attorney, and being denied adequate medical care. And they say GFF is a 21-year-old Venezuelan, and he was released on his own recognizance after a credible fear review. Now, remember, this guy was in May 2024, which I'm sure Biden just let everybody out at that point. So, yes. So, GFF was arrested and detained out of New York. Upon his detention, DHS filled out an I-213 identifying him as an affiliate of TDA. On March 9th, he was moved to Pennsylvania and then quickly to Texas. Only Venezuelans were transferred with him. His final individual hearing is scheduled for March 17th. On March 14th, ICE officers told him he was going to be deported in the middle of the night on March 14th. WGH is a 29-year-old, and he lives in Brooklyn with his wife and stepdaughter. He requested asylum because he was extorted and threatened by a bunch of groups, including TDA. They arrested him on the 20th, and he was assigned an attorney from Brooklyn Defender Services. And on March 7th, they filled out a form stating he has been identified as a TDA gang associate. He is not a member of TDA. Well, okay. On March 9th, he was abruptly transferred to Texas, where all the other Venezuelans were. He was scheduled to have a court hearing on March 12th, but he was not produced. His next immigration court hearing is scheduled for the 26th. He has been told he'll be taken on a plane on the 15th or 16th. He's extremely afraid of returning to Venezuela. I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's terrified. JGO is also a Venezuelan. And notice, this one's a little different. Notice how short his thing is. They don't say anything about him not being a TDA guy. That's a little sus. That's a little sus. He was abruptly transferred to Texas in the middle of the night. He was told to sign papers in English, which is not his native language. He refused to sign, and he was told he'll get deported sometime over the weekend. Notice that one, they really are. Yeah, that okay sounded like Kurt. Oh, all right. Well, but yeah, this one here, guys, get your noggin jogging. Like, are we admitting one of them actually is? Like, they could say nice about him. A little sussy there. So the defendants, we already know who people are. We don't need to get to them. The Alien Enemies Act is a wartime authority enacted in 1798 that allows the president specific powers to regulate detention and deport enemy aliens. As codified today, it says whenever there is a declared war between the U.S., and we already went through all of this, they say the AE can only be triggered in two situations. The first is when a formal wars exist with a foreign government. The second is when a foreign nation or government perpetrates attempts or threatens an invasion or predatory incursion against the United States. And to trigger the AEA, the president must make a public proclamation of the declared war or of the attempted or threatened invasion. And it says the AEA also provides that non-citizens must be permitted the full time to depart as stipulated by treaty between the U.S. and enemy nation unless the non-citizen has engaged in actual hostility against the United States. And if no such treaty exists, the president may declare a reasonable time. The reasonable time can also be 0. You have 0 minutes. So under the AEA, non-citizens who refuse or neglect to depart are subject to removal. They talk about the act has only been used a couple of times. The act was first invoked during the War of 1812, but President Madison did not use it to remove anyone. The second time was in World War I by Wilson, and there were no removals effectuated pursuant to the AEA during World War I. Obviously, it's a little different there. He proclaimed that Japan, in World War II on December 7, 1941, Roosevelt proclaimed that Japan had perpetrated an invasion upon the territory of the United States. He issued regulations applicable to Japanese nationals living in the United States. The next day, Congress declared war on Japan. That same day, he issued other proclamations that an invasion or predatory incursion was threatened by Germany and Italy. The president incorporated the regulations that were already in effect as the Japanese people for Germans and Italians, and that's true. There were Germans and Italians who were interred during World War II down in Texas. Not many, but there were some. Congress declared war against Hungary, Romania, and Bulgaria, and he issued a proclamation invoking the AEA against citizens of those countries too. And under these proclamations, the United States infamously interned non-citizens from Japan, Germany, Italy, Hungary, Romania, and Bulgaria, along with U.S. citizens of Japanese descent, subject to a separate order that did not rely on the AEA, and that's correct. And alien enemies were interred, but so were U.S. citizens interred. And the guys that led to the Korematsu decision. The Supreme Court's like, man, it's war. We can do whatever you want. Saying it wasn't until the end of the war that the president provided for the removal of any alien enemies under the AEA. On July 14th, 1945, Truman issued a proclamation saying, the enemies detained shall be subject to an order of the Attorney General to removal from the United States. It was never used as a widespread method of removal. And then in 1952, there was an overhaul. They consolidated U.S. immigration laws into the Immigration and Nationality Act. And that is true. They had to organize stuff. And it was a comprehensive system and reform. And it provides exclusive procedures which the government may remove individuals. So, and they say that they talk about any alien who's physically present in the United States or arrives may apply for asylum. They say to qualify for asylum, a non-citizen must show a well-founded fear of persecution on an account of a protected ground such as race, nationality, political opinion, or religion. And they say Congress has barred the removal of an individual to a country where it's more than likely not he would face prosecution or persecution on one of those protected grounds. And that is also part of the obligations under the refugee conventions and the protocol relating to the status of refugees. So when you talk about these conventions and then the protocols, this is international law, chat. It's the idea you can't do what's called refoulement. Refoulement is where you take like refugees and you send them back. So, for example, in Europe, a lot of the military-aged men of Ukraine, there were rumbles that the European governments were considering the Ukrainian government's request to send back men who could fight. That's considered refoulement. That's actually considered a crime against humanity. So, the relevant form of leave known as withholding or removal requires the applicant to satisfy a higher standard with respect to the likelihood of harm than asylum. Granting relief is mandatory if the standard is met, absent limited exceptions. Oh, we hit the gold, chat. Trump will send all the TDA members back. Congratulations, chat. My heart goes out to you. All right. So they talk about the third. The Convention Against Torture prohibits the government from returning a citizen to a country where it's more likely than not he would face torture. And the Convention Against Torture is international law. And the protection implements the Foreign Affairs Reform and Restructuring Act. There is no exception to cat relief. So there are no exceptions. If you can show it, you're stuck here. So they talk about Trump's proclamation. They talk about how it's not fair. He declared TDA a criminal hybrid state. And they say that upon information, they seek to do TDA as a criminal organization and will not name Venezuela itself as the foreign government as the target of the AEA. Except he does. Except upon information and belief, the proclamation is expected to allege that TDA is perpetrating, attempting, and threatening predatory incursions, hostile actions, and irregular warfare. So why are they saying upon information and belief, chat? They didn't have the proclamation yet, but they were able to put the lawsuit together. So you're like, huh. What happened there? How did these guys get word like that? Get your noggin jogging. So, so they say upon information and belief to determine who is an alien enemy subject to the proclamation, an ICE officer will complete and sign a standardized checklist, which is then attested by a supervising officer. The checklist, which utilizes a points-based methodology forms, documents whether the non-citizen satisfies all applicable criteria. Though the non-citizen must then sign the checklist, it will not be translated into Spanish or into any other language. Oh, los míos. Ay, 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 ay. Hold on, chat. Hold on one second. 2.0 cook something and I could smell it. I'm just smelling it now. Anyways, upon information belief they're signing the checklist, the non-citizen is subject to removal to any location as may be directed but consistent with applicable laws. Sorry, an email came in. I just like, it's like one in case I'm a guardian ad litem on for a divorce. Like the attorneys are working hard late tonight, surprisingly. They say upon information belief, the proclamation will not be afforded credible fear interviews for asylum, nor will claims for protection under the Convention Against Torture be recognized. And they say TDA is a criminal organization. It's not a foreign or national government. It's not part of the Venezuelan government, nor does it receive support from the government. I'm betting it does. And they're saying U.S. has not declared war on Venezuela, and it can't declare a war against TDA because it's not a nation. We declared war. We had a war against terror, and we went to war with Al Qaeda, and you ended up with enemy combatants and all kinds of shit. Trust me, you can do it. You can do it. I'm not saying it was a complete disaster, but you could fucking do it if you want to. They say neither Venezuela nor TDA have invaded the United States or threatened to invade the U.S. There's significant risk that even individuals who do not fall under the terms of the proclamation will be subject to it. They say countless Venezuelans are at imminent risk of deportation without any hearing or meaningful review, regardless of their ties to the United States or the availability of claims for relief. They also try to do this as a class action. And we talked about this before, chat. You have Rule 23 does class actions. And it's all non-citizens who were, are, or will be subject to the AEA proclamation and implementation. That means all Venezuelans. The class is so numerous that joinder of everybody is impracticable. True. Thousands of nationals from Venezuela will be involved in this. And it involves numerous future non-citizens who will enter the U.S. and be subject. Yes. The members are subject to a common practice. Summary removal under the proclamation, contrary to the AEA, INA, and other provisions. They're also saying it raises common questions of law, including whether the proclamation and its implementation violate the AEA, the INA, and other provisions for asylum seekers. So they also point out that each proposed class member, including the representatives, have experienced or faced the same principal injury, unlawful removal, based on the same government practice, the proclamation and its implementation. And they say the adequacy because, among other things, an order declaring the proclamation unlawful and an injunction is preferred. They seek the same relief. So in defending their rights, plaintiffs will defend all proposed members. And this goes on and on and on here, chat. They also talk about the harm. And obviously, yes, if he gets sent away, he's at risk of summary removal under the proclamation. And they talk about this right here. These guys are all set for these things and all the problems they're facing. Once again, JGO, there's no mention of why he's afraid he's going to get hurt. And they say the cause of action, ultra virus. Remember, chat, we're back to using this ultra virus. We're back to this. We're back to this. Kiki's saying, what's AAA? Where do you see AAA? The AEA, the Alien Enemy Act. So I'm not sure where you said AAA. I don't see AAA. So once again, they're saying this is outside the scope of the law, therefore it's not properly done. The second violation is under 8 U.S.C. 1001 for all defendants. Oh, you're talking about in chat. Oh. So they're pointing out that these are being violated. It sets out the sole mechanisms for removal under the Immigration and Nationality Act. So they're talking about the exclusive procedures here, and it violates, without the procedures in the INA, it violates also other parts of the INA. So the third claim of relief is violations for asylum. Fourth claim of relief is for violations without withholding of removal. And they're not being given the chance to protect themselves. Violation of the Foreign Affairs Reform Restructuring Act and also the Convention Against Torture. Violation of the Administrative Procedures Act against all defendants. And then once again, they say ultra virus. They're saying it's outside the scope of the law there. Violation of due process under the Fifth Amendment. And that's the idea they get due process. Although it's funny because, as we learned from Anwar al-Awlaki, the process you're due is whatever process they decide. He is a terrorist. Therefore, we will hit him with a Predator missile, a Hellfire missile. Is he a terrorist? Yes, he's a bad man. Friendly Predator missile inbound. Skadoosh! Then Anwar al-Awlaki's son. Friendly Predator missile inbound. Skadoosh! And then his daughter. I forget her name. Something al-Awlaki. Friendly Predator missile inbound. Skadoosh! Yes, we fucking drone strike 3 members of the same family. A guy and his 2 fucking kids. So, yes. I'm just saying, if we're worried about due process, I'm telling you, when it comes to foreign enemies, there's going to be no due process. They made that sound when the missile hit. Skadoosh. See, that I'd be a horrible drone operator. I'd be like, skadoosh. The ninth claims violation habeas corpus. And a prayer for relief. They want permanent injunctive relief. They want to declare unlawful the process. They want everything here, chat. They want a habeas corpus writ granted. They want everything granted. So what happened from there? Well, they ended up having a hearing on Saturday. So they then put out, initially there was an initial order, and it says that the initial plaintiffs cannot be removed. Why won't this let me write? Huh. So anyways, you can see it here. That a TRO will be set. The TRO was granted. So 1, the TRO was granted. 2, the defendant shall not remove any of the individual plaintiffs from the United States for 14 days, absent further order of the court. And then the parties will have a Zoom hearing on today, St. Patrick's Day. Now notice, if you can tell from we watched earlier, while they didn't get removed, some people got removed. Some people got removed. So, yeah, some people got removed, not these guys. And then from here, he also then had an order that they had the class certification hearing on Saturday at 5 p.m. And then from there, the judge got really snippy. So the judge said he went and reviewed all the exigent circumstances that had been made aware of what's going on. And remember, he says the plaintiffs have satisfied the 4 factors governing issuance of preliminary relief, that the likelihood of success on the merits, the harm they're going to seek is irrevocable, the balance of equities, and public interest and public policy concerns. So he said that the TRO is still granted. Nobody's will be allowed to remove for 14 days. And once again, the party shall appear at Zoom on March 17th as at 4 p.m. And eventually got set for later. We'll get to that here. Then move on. There was a motion to certify the class. So everybody got certified. They say that the way this works, it's all non-citizens who are subject to the act and are part of this TDA thing. The government to join removing such members of the class, not otherwise subject to removal. Now, here's the big thing. As I say, not otherwise subject to removal, chat. That's very important. Not otherwise subject to removal. Because if there's other means you can remove them, then remove them. Pursuant to the proclamation for 14 days or until further of the court, the government shall file any motion to vacate by today. And this is on the motion to certify the class. And that happened. Those things happened, chat. Now, from there, the government, in response to all of this, filed a civil appeal up to the D.C. Circuit. And from there, the D.C. Hold on here, chat. Where is it? The D.C. Circuit did take the appeal. So this was done over the weekend. And you're like, wow, these courts are moving like that. It's only because it's the government involved. They normally don't move like this. So the government sought an emergency stay pending appeal. They say the appellees file a combined response to the motions not exceeding 7,800 words by 5 p.m. Tuesday, March 18th. The appellants must file any combined reply not exceeding 3,900 words by Wednesday, March 19th. So you notice we're already kind of the point of like, wait, what? Like it's already too late after this hearing gets rolling. Now, if we go back to why the judge said you can't remove anyone, it's because those planes were already in the air. These planes were already in the air. And that's going to create an issue here. So let me see. We're going to bring up next is This is the interesting part here. This is the interesting part. It starts escalating out of control because the allegations are that and this is something addressed over the weekend, when the airplane was in flight, where were the planes? Because the judge said bring them back. They're like, we can't do anything about the planes are gone. Specifically those 3 planes. So, but yes, he did say I'm a district court judge turning the planes around. There was a brief letter to the clerk of court from the DOJ, and they were asking, can you please assign a different judge who's not a fucking psychopath? We don't believe that he's doing anything here. The court has set a now open public hearing for 5 p.m. Eastern today, and the government shall be prepared to provide answers to questions raised by the plaintiffs. And this is dealing with flights of, dealing with foreign terrorist organizations. So they have concerns about all this information getting out. And they say it's an inappropriate exercise of jurisdiction and the risk the court may force the government to disclose sensitive national security and operational security concerns or face penalties from the court. It says the government cannot and will not be forced to answer sensitive questions of national security and foreign relations in a rushed posture without orderly briefing and a showing that these are material to a live issue. They say answering them on the timetable is wholly unsuited to micromanagement supervision by a district court judge. So everybody's saying, fuck you, we don't want to do this. And it says the court's hasty public inquiry into these sensitive national security matters with no contemplated protections underscores the urgency of immediate relief from the court, including an immediate administrative stay that would allow further briefing to unfold. They say this court should also immediately reassign this case to another district court judge given the unusually high and improper procedures. Certification of a class action involving members of a designated foreign terrorist organization in less than 18 hours with no discovery and no briefing from the government. And that's true. There was no briefing from the government. The government was brought in and they had oral argument, and that was it. And this is signed by a deputy assistant attorney general. So what did the government do in the meantime to all of this? Well, they filed a response and they sought a motion to vacate the hearings. And this is them coming. This is surprising. The way this is written, it's almost like they were prepared for this. And I was following Shipwreck Crew, and I think he's correct on Twitter. Shipwreck Crew is right about this. This was pre-planned and preordained. And they say the plaintiff cannot use these proceedings to interfere with the president's national security and foreign affairs authority. Whoa, buddy. And the court lacks jurisdiction. And they say in response to the plaintiff's filing, this court's order set a hearing for this afternoon. The government submits the below response. And they say because it provides the necessary information to confirm compliance and represents a full extent of what counsel is authorized to share with the public or plaintiffs, the court should vacate the hearing and de-escalate the grave incursions on executive branch authority that have already arisen. Oh no. Oh no, chat. Oh no. Uh-oh. And it says, as the government has already explained, plaintiffs do not appear to dispute. The government complied with the TRO issued during the morning of March 15th and did remove any of the 5 plaintiffs. The government did so despite its powerful jurisdictional and other objections to the unprecedented assertion of judicial power to review the proclamation. They even said, we are kind. We didn't dare. We let you keep your rulings. They say, too, much of the submission rests on the oral directives that the court provided during the hearing held on March 15th. But as plaintiffs implicitly recognize, the court's written injunction, which was issued approximately at 7:25 p.m. Eastern, properly did not seek to interfere with the president's Article 2 powers to conduct military operations overseas by directing the return of aliens with a designated foreign terrorist organization who had already been removed from the U.S. territory. And that's the argument they're making here. This is no different than the judge arguing, you can't send the aircraft carrier there. They're arguing it's a military operation because they're terrorists. And I think something I'm surprised I didn't see get written in here was the AUMF, the authorization for the use of military force. Something that's basically been around since the war, September 11th and the Iraq. What's it been around since the Iraq War to allow the government to do whatever the fuck it wants. I tried to reach out to Shipwreck. I asked him if that was an issue here too, but I hadn't seen anybody talk about it, which makes me think I was a retard bringing it up. And they say, even though the written order did memorialize the other narrower directives from the hearing. And they say, contrary to the assertion, an oral directive is not enforceable as an injunction. That's correct. You know, oral statements are not injunctions. True. A judge who proclaims, I enjoin you, and doesn't follow up with an injunction has done nothing. And if the judge, who does not record an injunction or declaratory judgment on a separate document, the defendant's under no compulsion. That is correct. That is correct. That is correct. You are enjoined. You are enjoined. So that accords with the rules of civil procedure, which contemplates the issuance of a written order. They say, indeed, the rule provides that every order granting an injunction and every restraining order must state the reasons why it's issued, state its terms specifically, and describe in reasonable detail the act or acts restrained or required. Written orders are crucial because they clarify the bounds of permissible conduct. Judge Minor, joined by Sotomayor. There's a reason why they include that one. That's the reason why they include that one. And they say the district court has long followed that principle. And they cite cases an injunction has not become an injunction until it's reduced to writing. And that principle holds especially true when the court issues a written order, but phrases it more narrowly. In that event, the written order controls. Yes. And they say we don't review oral statements from the bench on a matter later committed to writing. We instead review the written order. They say, indeed, the narrow written order may well represent a more considered judgment by the court about the proper exercise of its powers. And I've had that happen before, guys. You'll have that happen. The court issues a court order, and it sets an injunction out. It says what it's going to do, and then it modifies it a little bit in the order it puts out. And you're like, well, you're kind of stuck with what you have. You're stuck with what you have. So, and they say it's well-established law, the written minute order governed. It enjoined the government from removing the foreign terrorists pursuant to the proclamation. The government did not violate that injunction. As plaintiffs themselves say, the two flights they identified departed before the thing, and before that matter, any oral directives. They're pointing out that it had already left a long time ago. They say, as any flights already outside the United States, U.S. territory and airspace, anyone on board had already been removed within the meaning of the Enemy Aliens Act in the court's order, and therefore are uncovered. The plain meaning of remove is the transfer or moving of a person or thing from one location, position, or residence to another. And they say, and that meaning aligns with the context of the Alien Enemies Act, which is concerned with protecting the territorial integrity of the United States from foreign incursions. Not what happens to enemy aliens after they're removed from the United States. That's fair. So, and they say in the INA context, in the context of the INA, remember, that's where this is all out of, the Immigration and Nationality Act. The alien is removed once he has left the United States. Now, guys, they mention here that there's a footnote. So there's a third flight, because remember, there were 3 planes. That flight carried detainees who were removable on grounds other than the proclamation is therefore irrelevant. The government is able to disclose that limited fact for the same reason. So they say the assertions about U.S. custody after 7:25 p.m. are not relevant. The questions about what occurred beyond U.S. territory or airspace, which implicate sensitive questions of national security, foreign relations, and coordination with the foreign nations, are neither material nor appropriate. They say, indeed, they cannot be answered in public proceedings. Neither the plaintiffs nor the public are entitled to that sort of sensitive national security information, and the government is not prepared to disclose it. I mean, it's a fucking gang of shitbag Venezuelans. You can share it. They say finally, even if the court had purported to enjoin the government from taking steps overseas, that still would not restrict the president from exercising his other authorities under the Constitution to engage in diplomatic negotiations and to protect the U.S. from dangerous terrorists and criminals already outside the country. And they say the president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. The power is exclusive to the president and includes all authorities essential to its due exercise. As commander-in-chief, he's authorized to direct the movements of the Navy and Army placed by law at his command and to adjoin them in the and to deploy them in the manner he may deem most effectual to harass and conquer and subdue the enemy. The president is also constitutionally empowered to engage in diplomatic and foreign negotiations and relations. These are inherent Article 2 powers, which, when exercised outside the United States, are not subject to judicial review. And that's correct. When the president acts on a foreign thing, that's it. That is outside the purview of a court. That is their job. And they've already noticed it. When the president is performing in his official duties, they can't do anything. And they say the conduct of foreign relations of our government is committed to the Constitution, to the executive and legislative, the political departments of the government. And the propriety of what may be done is not subject to judicial inquiry and decision. You know, it happens all the time. And this is Haig v. Aggie, and this is Haig when he was Alexander Haig when he was Secretary of State. And it says matters intimately related to foreign policy and national security are rarely proper subjects for judicial intervention. Yes. They say in some, just as a court assuredly cannot enjoin the president for carrying out a foreign drone strike or an overseas military operation, which, remember, chat, the Alawakis got due process. They've already done that. That very small is kind of creepy. Oh. Guys will survive. Or from negotiating with a foreign power to coordinate on such an operation, nor could a court lawfully restrict the inherent Article 2 authorities to work with a foreign nation to transfer terrorists or criminals who are already outside the U.S. Consequently, even if one could broadly and improperly construe the court's written minute order as restricting the government turning over to foreign governments aliens who are already abroad, that was still limited by its terms to actions taken pursuant to the proclamation. Once the terrorists have been removed from the United States, any decision made by the president to take such actions pursuant to independent authority is therefore not a violation of the orders in all events. They say there's been no violation of the court's orders, and because the government is not prepared to disclose any further national security or OPSEC details, the court should vacate the hearing scheduled for this afternoon. It did not. We're going to get to that. The government did not make this request lightly. The executive branch has designated TDA a foreign terrorist organization, a designation that plaintiffs do not challenge. Well, they're not challenging it here, but that's outside of what the TRO would get them anyway. They say the course of these proceedings, in which the court has enjoined the removal of aliens, to whom the executive branch has determined are part of a foreign terrorist organization, raises extraordinary concerns about the rule of law and the executive branch's ability to take swift action to keep the nation safe. And it's been respectfully submitted by Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche, Emil Bove, like these already guys, the big timers, Chad Mazzell. These are two other people who are kind of like Trump's people that got put in there. Then you have August Flenchy. This guy's big time. And then also Drew Ensign, Deputy Assistant Attorney General. Like, there's some important people getting involved in this. Oh. You guys, I just smiled. Jeez, you guys will survive. Oh. So that's it. Now, what was the response to this? Well, there was a response by the people here trying to stand for the Venezuelans. So the lawyers come in and they go, well, actually, and they say, that's not right. No. So it's the plaintiff's response to the defendant's notice. And they say on March 16th, they submitted a notice explaining why they believe their actions were consistent with the court's TRO. They say, however, in addition to the numerous reports and publicly available data suggesting the defendants may have violated the court's order, the government's own notice raises serious questions. Plaintiff therefore requests the court seek immediate clarification in one or more sworn declarations about the court's orders. And they say, first, the government letter states, the court order was issued at 7:26 p.m. But that was the time the court's written order appeared on Pacer. And they say during the Saturday hearing between 6:45 and 6:48, this court orally and unambiguously directed the government to turn around any planes carrying individuals being removed pursuant to the declaration. Well, remember, chat, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. And I think I read these in the wrong order here. Hold on, chat. Did I do these in the wrong order? Oh shit! Yes, I did, chat. Yes, I did. Sorry, we're gonna finish this up though. In the meantime, we're gonna finish this up. Yeah, not sorry. Can't just turn them around. So, and this is the judge saying, you shall inform your clients of this immediately, and that any plane containing these folks that is going to take off or is in the air needs to be returned to the United States. But those people need to be returned to the United States, however that's accomplished, whether turning around a plane or not embarking anyone on the plane, or those people covered by this on the plane, I leave to you. But this is something you need to make sure is complied with immediately. And they say that oral order, of course, carries no less weight than the court's written order. Except it doesn't. And they say extremely, they remain extremely concerned that regardless of which time is used, the government may have violated the court's command. The government states that some gang members subject to removal had been removed from the United States under the proclamation before issuance of the court's second order. That suggests the government has chosen to treat this order as applying only to individuals still on U.S. soil or on flights that have yet to clear U.S. airspace as of 7/26. If that is how the government proceeded, it was a blatant violation of the court's order. Yeah, I don't think so there. They say whether or not the planes had cleared U.S. territory, the U.S. retained custody at least until the planes landed, and the individuals were turned over to foreign governments. See, I don't think so there. I don't think that's the case. They say the court couldn't have been any clearer. It was concerned with losing jurisdiction and authority to order the planes returned if they were handed over to foreign governments, not with whether the planes had cleared U.S. territory. And this is the judge. He's saying, I would assume that means they, the five plaintiffs, are either not on the planes or they will not be removed from the planes and brought back once the planes land in El Salvador. And they're saying, is that not fair? And the judge is saying, again, just so we're clear, if the planes had already landed and discharged their occupants, aside from the five people I joined earlier, then this order, I don't have jurisdiction to require their return. And they say, based on information, it appears there were at least two flights that took off during the hearing, but landed after the court's written order. They say, moreover, all that information was obviously in the defendant's possession. Plaintiffs nonetheless emailed counsel for the government with the information about these two flights immediately after the hearing concluded. And they're saying Global X flight 6143 landed in Honduras at 7:36. Global X flight 6145 left at 5:45 Eastern Standard Time. So they left well before the hearing. And they landed in San Salvador, El Salvador at 8:02 p.m. EDT. Well, what the fuck are they going to do? What the hell are they going to do? What are they going to do here? And it said, third, if the only written order is relevant, and even if the court had only meant to order defendants to turn the planes around if they were still in U.S. territory, the plaintiffs still have serious concerns about the government's actions. According to at least one media report, one of the planes departed after the written order was issued. So they're relying on media reports. Like, oh, a reporter said it. It's got to be true. Oh. Okay. This account is consistent with the publicly available flight data indicating that Global X Flight 6122 left at 7:37 p.m. Eastern and landed in Camayaga, Honduras at 9:46. The plaintiffs have also informed defendants about this flight immediately after the hearing. And because of the concerns, there have been significant media reporting the defendants may have defied the court order. Notice, they're now, once again, we're getting to this laundering of information. They talk about Axios, reported that Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller and Department of Homeland Security Secretary chose not to turn the planes around. Officials claimed they could ignore this court's order because the planes were over international waters. The article was later updated with a statement from Caroline Levitt, who said the administration did not refuse to comply with the court order. The order, which had no lawful basis, was issued after the aliens had already been removed from U.S. territory. The written order of the administration's actions do not conflict. They say more of the Supreme Court has made repeatedly clear. Federal courts generally have no jurisdiction over the president's conduct of foreign affairs. His authorities under the Alien Enemies Act and its core Article 2 powers to remove foreign alien terrorists from U.S. soil and repel a declared invasion. And they're saying a single judge in a single city cannot direct the movements of an aircraft carrier full of foreign alien terrorists who are physically expelled from U.S. soil. And this is a comment that was in there. And notice they're citing, they're laundering news articles. It's kind of sad. Kind of sad. Kind of sad. And I think that they meant that to be the correct date as March 16, 2025. They said they interviewed a White House official saying, "We believe this is a baseless legal ruling, no matter when the flights took off." Well, who is it? Like, who's this anonymous official? Once again, it's the anonymous sources, Chad. It's the army of anonymous sources. The army of anonymous sources. The army of anonymous sources. They said that 2 of the 3 flights were out of the country before the order strengthens our case. Yeah. And they say finally some comments made by the president and the defendants of El Salvador reinforce the concerns. So, for example, and this is great, on March 16th, El Salvador President Bukele tweeted a New York Post headline reading, "Fed judge orders deportation flights carrying alleged Venezuelan gang members to return to the United States and blocks Trump from invoking the act," and added the comment, "Oopsie, too late." Secretary of State Marco Rubio retweeted this post from his personal Twitter account. Ah! That's pretty based. That's pretty based. They say, in some, given the careful phrasing of the government's letter, the publicly available data, the government's own statements, and the numerous media reports, the government may not have chosen to abide by the court's order. The court requests that the plaintiff requests the court immediately direct the government to submit one or more sworn declarations from individuals with direct knowledge of the facts, clarify the following. And they want to know whether any flights took off after either the court's written or oral orders were issued, whether any flight landed after either the written or oral orders were issued, whether any flight of individuals subject to the proclamation was still in the air after the orders were issued, or whether any individuals were transferred to a foreign country after the oral orders were written and issued. And this is from all the attorneys involved. You got the ACLU involved. You got the ACLU involved. You got the ACLU involved. You know, it's nice they went. If only they represent fucking January 6th defendants, the Democracy Forward Foundation. Yeah, yeah. Be nice if they helped anybody else out, but yeah, whatever. So that is where we end up with. And now there was a hearing this afternoon, and it was on the phone. I tried listening to it. Was not something I could listen to. Because it just the phone shit was garbage. But we are going to switch over to this because this is somebody, if you guys want somebody who kind of tracks all the Trump cases, this is Margot Cleveland. She's a legal correspondent for the Federalist Society, or the Federalist. I'm sorry, not the Federalist Society, but the magazine, the Federalist. She has, she's an attorney. She got her information. So anyway, she was able to kind of transcribe what happened here and what went down. So I'll make this big enough so you guys can read it. And she says, the judge says, there are questions I want answers for and why you won't tell me. He said, how many planes departed on Saturday carrying anyone based on the proclamation? How many people in each category? What countries did they land and what time took off and where? And they say the time that they were transferred to each country's custody. And then the judge asked the ACLU, is there anything else I should say? They wanted the government to do directed declarations, sworn declarations, to make sure the government isn't basing this on Article 2 and saying that it is its basis. And the DOJ saying none of it's necessary. We comply with the order. The judge says, I will require declaration on proclamation regarding the third flight. The DOJ says the oral order is not the injunction. And the transcript said, I would memorialize giving the DOJ a good faith basis to wait for the written order. And the judge says, if I'm telling you, immediately turn the planes around, the DOJ says what you wrote down is, we have to follow what you wrote. And normally the judge would want them to do that. But now he's like, you're doing what you're supposed to do. Stop it. It's like, well, then once again, though, chat, this is another issue of the judges in these cases making shitty orders. We talked about this with the other case out of Rhode Island where the judge said, you can't stop any money from going out the door. And they said, Judge, we have proof this is fraud. And he said, wait, you don't have to do that. Remember, these judges are cooking themselves. They're so wrapped up in the orange man is bad that they're writing garbage orders that they then have to fix. But yes, the orange man is bad. He's so bad, Chad. He's bad. He's bad. And let's move this back. The DOJ is saying, sorry, what you wrote down controls. And the judge says, you're telling me that very clear point is not in order. And they say, we're telling you our position and it wasn't written down. You knew that morning there would be a hearing at 5. So when I said directly turn the plane around because my order was going to be pithier, that can be disregarded. And they're saying, honey, it's not a matter of disregarding. We're saying, honey, it's what you write down that matters. And he says, so you're saying we're outside of airspace, so no jurisdiction? They're saying, no, removal happens as soon as they leave the U.S. So that means they were already removed, which is what the court order talked about. And you're like, that's how you read the court order, Judge. And the judge says, my equitable power is extraterritorial reach. You can't violate it. Are you really sure that you have that kind of reach there, Home Slice? Are you sure you have that kind of extraterritorial reach? I don't think you do. Like, I'm just saying. I don't think you do there, homie. I don't think that's going to be I just don't think that's going to work out like that. So that's a thing here. And there's something that I think is, I think there's going to be an issue here too of why this, why couldn't this, they, name everybody in the group and the government confirm each has been identified as TDA and they'll take care of it. That's going to get to, I mean, but yeah, and guys, I do want to bring this up real quick. Yeah, I did see something here. Somebody sent me a tweet saying that yes, they were looking for the common tattoos. So yeah, it's like, well, there you go. Now this is the thing here where this judge says I have the jurisdiction extraterritorially. You don't though. Your power is based on your jurisdiction, and you can't assume jurisdiction like that. He didn't, there's no check on his power then, theoretically. I mean, this idea is he would literally have limitless jurisdiction. Is that really something he can argue? No. That's not something he would be able to argue with a straight face, that he literally has infinite jurisdiction. Because that's what he's saying. My equitable power is extraterritorial reach. You can't violate it. Are you sure about that? Because somebody could enjoin the president from invading a country or launching an airstrike, because an injunction in equity is an equitable power. Are you saying you have that right? No. Your power doesn't extend outside the jurisdiction you have. So, I mean, this is where I was reading this. Stephen Miller talks about this too. Okay, well, I didn't see what he said. Yeah, I think this guy is just all wrapped, like he's all kind of fucking wrapped around the axle. So, that's where we are with this. Like, how is this going to shake out there? Hella says phone home. Yes, they're going to have to phone home. So now they move on. He says, my equitable power can order you to return the plane. No, you can't. Your jurisdiction ends outside of the United States. You don't have global jurisdiction. You don't have global jurisdiction. And once again, Chad, I've said this before. These courts are cruising for a bruising. They want to felt the orange man so hard. They want to hunt the orange whale so bad. This judge is saying, my power, I can make you do whatever you want, whatever I want around the world, because I'm a goddamn federal judge. No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. He says you lost jurisdiction once outside U.S. airspace because once it's removed, it's completed. The better course to return to the U.S. to figure out course than to say, I don't care. And the DOJ says the president has the authority of military forces and deals with diplomatic powers. And it says, what are powers to continue this operation? Land planes. He says that's when issues between the president and foreign affairs. And he says, I'm not calling into question foreign policy. I'm asking how you don't think my power is attached to the plane. Because the plane is involved in a foreign action now. Foreign policy and foreign power and foreign affairs have attached. That means you no longer have authority over it. He's not stupid. He's being obtuse as hell for some reason. And they say that, and the DOJ says, finally, the order only involved the proclamation, but removal was based on Article 2 powers. Once it crossed international airspace, the foreign affairs is at its zenith. Yes. When the president is acting well within Article 2, his power is unassailable. And the judge is saying the president has extra power once he's left the use airspace. Well, yeah, he's got his power can't be assailed once he's outside. Once he complied with the written order, once outside, the U.S. president has stronger Article 2 things. And the judge says, my powers do not end at the water's edge. He says it'd be better to argue on agreed upon facts, which I hope to get today. So let's get to those. No, you don't have that authority. Your equitable powers are not global. And then this Margot brings up a great point here that since the only remedy would be criminal contempt instead of civil contempt, Trump could issue a pardon, and then everybody's like, fuck you. Although, to be fair, Trump would have to issue an ongoing pardon. The judge tried to hold him in contempt. And then the plaintiffs are like, you couldn't have been clearer. The DOJ could come back and ask clarity. Ask who made the decision. The judge says, when was the proclamation issued? Friday secretly or Saturday? Give me that answer by noon tomorrow. And what was the intention when it went into effect? He says, how many people subject to the proclamation remain in the United States? And how many are in the U.S.? And they say, we don't know. The DOJ is like, we don't really know right now. And the DOJ says, how many subject to the proclamation is a national security issue? And the judge says, you tell me what? And they say, confirm no one else will be removed from the United States. And they said, we confirm that. We agree. No one else will be removed. He says, I want a sworn declaration that third flight was not subject to the proclamation and why you can't answer my questions. And inform you will answer them. And he's trying to say, because if they can say that's a state secret, that's classified. And if you won't tell me why you won't answer me, you have to explain why you won't. He says, if you won't answer me, you have to tell me why you can't. He said, since my oral orders seem to mean nothing, well, that's case law, brother. I will put this in writing. I will let you know how to further proceed after I receive your information. Wah. Yes, the judge is very pissed. The DOJ's hopping to the Court of Appeals steps in. I think they will. He says, she said, I fully accept Trump refused to answer because it's a non-justiciable question. And thus none of your business. A non-justiciable question means, Chad, it's something that the court cannot rule upon or talk about. So, that is where we are with that. So there's a lot going on here, what this is going to turn into. I think this brings up a lot of issues because the judge never acknowledges that, like, these are already involved in foreign things and this shit's going on. And it's the idea that he says he might not have the authority. You're like, who put the nickel in you? It's a completely foreign power and foreign action at this point. It's entirely within his authority. It's entirely there. This is within his bailiwick. This is within his Article 2 power. It's all the way within his Article 2 power. Now, could I see at some point the Supreme Court saying, like, okay, now that we're actually using this again, you have to bring in some sort of Article 3 judge or like an administrative judge who they get to have a hearing before you remove them, since we're not technically at war. I could see that. But I don't see them saying, like, this is all wholly unconstitutional. I think that at the worst, this will get amended, a little bit of change in policy. But making people on the left drag their nuts and cry and scream for 230 fucking gangsters out of Venezuela is a brilliant look by Trump. He's letting these people fucking do the most retarded. Like, this is the pro gamer move by Donald. Like, these people are losing their minds over these guys. And you're like, what? I think it's really bad for them. I think this is a horrible, horrible, horrible look. So, this is How to Win Voters by Donnie. Yes. Yes, I agree. All right. So, did the judge self-felt? I mean, I think so. I think he's all worried about fucking making sure the plane's like, he got all wrapped up in trying to make a decision here. And I don't think it helped him. I don't think it helped him the way he thought it would. So I just don't see how this works. Um, I just don't see how this shakes out otherwise. I think there's going to be, something where you get like a hearing and that happens here, but this judge saying, I have authority over this. It's like, no, you don't, man. No, you don't. Um, I think there's a big problem here. I did see, I think somebody in chat mentioned this. Well, they could just put the judge on the 5-hour flight. That would be fucking hilarious. LK says, do you have the letter asking for this to be reassigned? Yes. We cover that very quickly. Like they're saying this guy's acting unhinged. Please help us. Please help us. But yeah, this is I don't see how this works for him. I don't see how this works for him. Ultimately, this probably should have been filed in Texas. And yes, a federal judge certified a class involving a fucking terrorist organization. He declared a terrorist organization as a class in a class action lawsuit. Imagine if fucking Al Qaeda got as a class member. So, I like I said, guys, this is the lengths at which they want to go to own the Orange Man is going to be their downfall. Their pride will be their downfall. Their greed will be their downfall. Who is this judge? I'm not going to go into it because you guys can look him up out there. He is a douchebag on his own. So, yeah, the Orange Man is bad. I know he's so bad. They say right now they have the emotional argument on their side. Well, they have a factual argument on their side too. Petty says now the judge is an enemy combatant. No. Yes, Bush and Cheney will be quaking if Al Qaeda got class status. Yeah, I know. All right, chat. So we got to catch up on some things here. Chugi Show is saying late because he put the fries in his mouth and not in the bag. Well, yeah, I mean they're fries. They're tasty. It's gonna be a tough struggle. I hate Yankees for $2 says pay the gray away. That's very funny. You're a funny guy, Sully. You are a funny guy.
You're a funny guy, Sully. I like you. That's why I'm going to kill you last.
Techion Black has been a member for 1 month, says, I'm here. I'm green. And I signed this in AutoPen. And now, guys, we're going to talk about that a little bit. I think, I actually want to get you, a video of an AutoPen working. The AutoPen's not the big deal. Because almost every, the amount of shit president has to sign is signed by AutoPens. And I will tell you this. For example, I'll give you guys a quick story here. When I worked at Toledo, when I was a public defender in Toledo, and also when I was just, running my own office there in Toledo, when you had a case and, when you grabbed the case file and they had 2 different colors, they had blue as criminal and yellow as traffic. Let's say you had a guy with a criminal case. You go up to the bailiff, and the bailiff at that point is the court's judicial assistant. And you'd say, hey, look, can we get this, reset, set for the assignment commissioner and set out for another date? We're working on stuff. You didn't have to go up in front of the judge. They take a look at it and be like, okay, yeah. And, and the judge would say, okay, yeah, that's fine. And the judge would say, you're good. Go ahead and do it. And instead of the judge having to sign it, they had a whole thing of stamps. And one of the stamps they had, would be like no bond, do not lift bond, do not release from jail, hold until hearing, because if you kept not showing up. But they also had one with the judge's signature on it. So they, boom, signed, done. Judge don't have time to sign all that shit all day long. Same thing for the president. He doesn't have time to sign all our shit all day long. He doesn't. So the AutoPen's not a problem. That's a first thing. Trump, it doesn't work that way. You can use auto pens. He can also designate people to sign on his behalf if he wanted to. But the auto pen is a legitimate use of things. So, real quick, Granola over in Rumble is saying, should I play the Motown classic Super Bad every time the phrase Orange Man Bad is used? Yes. Joe Smo over in Rumble says, looks like them Duke boys dancing on the other side of the county line. Poor Judge Roscoe P. Coltrane. Yes. Yep. Sheriff Roscoe. Yep. Poor Judge and Roscoe Coltrane. Yeah, I know. Poor Boss Hogg. They got out of the county. But yes, I'm here and sign this in an auto pen. Yes. Oh. But we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So we need a little more time here, chat. But I want to get through all this stuff first. If we get done and you guys are still here, we'll talk more. Okay. How about that, chat? How about that? Well, I got to catch up for everybody. And I'll tell you why I don't think it matters. So I Hate Yankees gifted 1 membership. Thank you for doing your part, helping civilize these savages, these godless heathens known as the Greys. Thank you for your support and your generosity. Stephen Cooper says, $5 for the kaleidoscope. Thank you. Vodka Blood says 0.1 KNU for Clyde. I get that reference. No. EDW Raptor says, helping Trump send back some TDA members. Yes. He says, if it goes towards the goal, I'll send another one. Oh. Stephen Cooper says, is Ohio a foreign terrorist organization? No, we're everywhere. So no. Remember, we don't exist. EDW Raptor says, let's go, chat. Help make the goal. Deport some TDA members. Yes, chat. Do your part. Jefferson Post says, there's a long history of communists working with all manner of networks to meet their goals. Yes, that's true. Very true. With the right stuff, we could turn Venezuela into a new Panama Canal. Yeah, but would you want to? Colleen, all my friends saying, hi, Sean. Hi, chat. Well, hello. Samuel Hartman says that Maduro is LARPing Tropico in real life. Ikiopathic says, do you feel in charge? Does it make you think you have power over me? Sobe Liz Blizz. It's been a more for 1 month. Thank you for the support. It says, hello. Well, hello to you too. Jefferson Post says, note, it doesn't say here unto set my auto pen. Lol. Yes. Funny. Lamo is saying Japan is an alien friend. Yes. They are a good alien. They are friend shaped. That's why they are friend. Jefferson Post says around 1900, what was used to deport commies? Oh, I mean, I don't know. They were just generally anyone on the left was just murdered by government, so it didn't matter. Stephen Cooper says the static line prisoner jump kind of slaps. Just take a 727 and punch it off so the back falls off and just start shoving them out the door. Or you could take like a C-130 and just like take all the seats up so they're sitting on the floor. And as it goes up in the air, they all just fall out the back. That would be a way to do it. Benjamin Lewis has been a member for 14 months. Thank you for that kind of support. Thank you. He says, would Gitmo be a better solution than El Salvador? Well, I mean, the issue is if you take them to Gitmo, remember, we had the cases of like Hamdan v. Rumsfeld and Hamdi v. Rumsfeld. We ended up with, what rights you get when you are in Guantanamo. And technically, if these guys are foreign terrorists, are they enemy combatants at that point? Like, how does that work? And how would all that go for that? that, if you have the right to due process, that if you're an enemy combatant, yeah, and like it becomes an issue. How does that work? How does that work? And there's how does this happen here? There's all kinds of issues about how you do this. So it's something you have to take into consideration. And one day we may sit down and talk about like Hamdan and Hamdi and how the Guantanamo stuff worked out. But you're also opening them up to like you have that more process. But remember, when else would have sent them to Guantanamo? We can get them the fuck out of here. So no, Gitmo wouldn't be a better solution at that point. EDW Raptor says the Glowy's using Glow Airlines. Well played, yes. And Whiskey said, my info is bad and old. They used different processes to identify everybody. Okay. I appreciate that. And Tachyon Black saying, we legally can't admit that we caught you in a pre-crime algorithm. And Test Channel, wow, is saying, I hope JD Vance, I like to imagine JD Vance is personally filming all of this. Oh boy. Oh boy. Callum, formerly of the Lotus Eaters, yes, had a good travel video of El Salvador on his Britannica channel. Yes. Callum does a lot of good traveling around the world. I like his stuff. Pepsi Man says, will you talk about Trump trying to validate the pardons? Yes, we're about to in a second. We got a little bit of time. Angela says, chat. Hello. Hi, Angela. Hope you're doing well. It's good to see you. Kiki Ray says, am I biased or does the ACLU judge and lawyers hate America? I'm okay either way. Would just like to know. Yeah, they do. They do. They hate America. Or they hate us. They hate us, at least. So, arson investigator for $4.99 says, fuck around and find out. Yes. Sandra Dornan said, did this judge really crash out at the Trump and DOJ? Yes, he did, it sounds like. Can the U.S. military conduct operations on U.S. soil? Yes, at times it can. I mean, especially in a time of invasion or a time of war, it probably can. Now, you run into like posse comitatus is a separate thing, but even that can be suspended in a time of war. But generally, otherwise, it all depends. Sleazy says, is it the dub for the Emperor? I think ultimately, yes, it's going to be one. And the DC Killing Spree says, but I enjoyed it! Yes. And a Sika Loader for $5 Singapore dollars. Hey, man, I saw your comment, and sorry it ended beforehand. I messaged you because I saw you messaged me on the forums. I did try to. I messaged you back, so I hope you got it. So, I'm sorry I saw this, but I'll make sure if I see it again in the future, I'll make sure to highlight you too, just to kind of square up with you. I said try again the super chat earlier. Will Destiny be as lucky as Aaron, who's in a similar situation? What are the differences? Destiny's already in a better situation because he's not facing criminal charges. I don't think he's going to, and nor do I think he probably should at this point. The legal system will take care of itself far more. He's already lost a ton of things, like it's destroyed his career of trying to get mainstreamed. Like he's got all kinds of problems. So he's already ahead of Aaron in that department. Like he doesn't have to worry about jail time or prison or having a criminal record, anything like that. He's already doing better. So I think he's doing far better in that regard. Jim says, check Discord. I will in 1 second. Pepsi Man says, deport Destiny back to Cuba. Yeah, deport him and all the other Gusanos back to Cuba. Ammo's Currency for $5 says, these organizations never helped our friendly neighborhood pleb with his legal bills or situation. Don the pleb still has a significant legal bill. That's right, chat. If you guys remember Give, Send, Go, we talked about this before. If you guys remember Don the pleb, if you guys see him on Future Conflict all the time, Don Workman, he is taking care of things out there. He actually got indicted for September 11th, Don. Sorry, not September 11th. No, Don's a good boy. He didn't do 9/11. January 6th. Oh, jeez, that's going to get clipped. That's going to get clipped. That's going to get clipped. Holy shit. If you guys want to help him over at Give, Send, Go, you guys can do that. Don the Pleb's legal fees. Help him out a little bit. I'm sure he would appreciate it. No, I didn't mean that, chat. Don went too far this time. Is Don a Jew? No, Don is not a member of the tribe. I can assure you of that. Jojo says, and this is how rumors get started. No. Yeah. Are you sure Don wasn't involved in Building 7? Yes. And Nero says, isn't he pardoned? No, Don was not convicted. He was still pre-trial because Don had got arrested over the summer. His case was still pending. But in the meantime, between like the summer and, January 20th, he had to pay an attorney. Like they had to fight their case and all that shit. So he had to pay legal fees to his attorney. So that's part of Don's issue. And I think Don's going to keep this up for a bit because, yeah, he needs, his attorney wasn't cheap. His attorney wasn't cheap. Don was literally flying one of the planes. Damn it, you're here. You're going to go there and say that it happened. Oh, no. Oh, no. I let the truth out. And T-Money says Don did 9/11. Yes, chat. He was confused and he thought it was a giant crayon. He's like, I must eat this. So he knocked it over and was like, uh-oh. Oh, God. Oh, my God. Don, I am so sorry. Oh, no. This is not good. All right. Yes, Don did 9/11, then enlisted in the Marine Corps because he likes to fight that much. Was his attorney shipwreck crew? No. Don had a different attorney. Because Don asked me, he's like, hey, have you ever heard of this attorney? He's a good guy. I'm like, I know who he is, but I'm like, it's not like we play golf. But no, Don actually picked a really good attorney. He got a pretty good one under his belt. So, yeah, he had a good attorney. Shipwreck crew wasn't bad either. I mean, you guys, like, all these people were going to DC. Everybody was getting fucked. Like, I mean, nobody got a fair shake in DC is part of the problem, but nobody was going to get to there. Arson investigator for 49,999,999 says the rogue judge JEB just ordered SpaceX to leave the astronauts in space and not violate the Spaceballs galactic policy. I didn't hear about that. We'll take a look at that in a second. Interesting. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Thank you for the super chat. Corthus is saying that judge is apparently doing the ignore the Supreme Court precedent at any percentage speed run. Yes, he's going for the record, chat. He's going for the record. And then Matty Graham's been a member for 1 month. He says, also, thank you for the support. He's like, put the fries in the bag. Yes. Judge just needs to put the fries in the bag, and he won't do it. And then Ammo's Currency says they never did find Don's passport in the wreckage. That's true. Don, why was your passport not in the wreckage? Maybe you did do 9/11 now. I don't know anymore. Guys. And by the way, what was I going to say? Yeah, Don is over on Rumble, guys. He's under Pleb Media. I think he's trying to work on getting YouTube back up, but he's got a bunch of stuff planned coming up. So stick around and wait for him. So Corey over on Rumble says, how fat is this guy? Pretty fat. Pretty fat. Jim brought up something here, and we're going to say, saying, yeah, there's no limit to what Congress could do short of impeachment. Yeah, they can reassign courts. They can suspend them. There's hearing cases with pay. Yeah, there's a lot that can happen. And ultimately, the biggest thing Congress can do is impeach them, but they're not going to get impeachment because there's not enough people in the Senate. You need 67 senators. You ain't going to get that. So what can you do? Well, you can start fucking with the court system. You can abolish courts. The Judiciary Act, just nuke it and just buy Judiciary Act. And then you start a new one and you're like, hi, Judiciary Act. And it's like, hello. And you just take care of it like that. Hold on, guys. 1 second. I need to fix this. Hold on, chat. Give me 1 second here. No, I'm not messing with my headphones. I'm messing with something else. If I was messing with my headphones, I'd do that in front of you because I'm not worried about that. Like I said, guys, the headphones are on there. The headphone pads are on the way. I don't need new headphones. I have to order the new squishy parts, and I'm trying to find like gel pad so they stick around forever. Sula has been a member for 11 months. Thanks for the support, man. I appreciate it. Say, can the DOJ go after NGOs who run the caravans? I'm hoping they do. They can. If you're accepting U.S. money, I'm sure the government can intervene in looking there. Johan saying, Clyde did 9/11. Donna's the Manchurian candidate. Oh. But yeah, Jim, I do agree. There's a lot of ways they could fuck with the courts, and I'm sure that there'll be some creative things happening. Like make a man or radar station in fucking Alaska or something. Oh. Oh, Corey saying, I look like a Caucasian version of Stephen Chung. Well, hold on. If I went like this, I would then look like Stephen Chung. But not yet. Not yet. So you guys were also asking about, though, the Biden stuff. Like, how can you do this? So here's part of the issue. And I'm going to use this as an example because we covered this before with the Hughes Amendment. When it got passed and we watched the video of it where, all in favor, aye, all opposed, nay! Like, there were a lot more nays. And he said, the ayes have it. And he gavelled it. And then people were like, we need to stop this. And somebody said, no, we can fight it later. No, you can't fight it later. Once it gets through Congress and it's passed and it's signed by President into law, that's it. It's over. Once it passes that chamber of the House of the Congress, it's done. It's presumed to have followed its rules. That's why, like, you see the cases of people saying, well, Congress violated its rules and didn't do the right things for me and didn't give me the proper things. Supreme Court says, that's their own fucking rules, man. We can't get involved. Now, when it comes to this pardon, absent, even like at this point, nobody's been able to claim Biden didn't know what he's signing unless they've got proof of somebody admitting to this. Like, I signed all these, or I ran the auto pens and Biden had no idea. He doesn't even have to be in the same room. If he knew that they were, hey, we're going to pardon Fauci, we're going to pardon Milley. As long as he knew that and said, cool, do it. That's all it takes. And really, all it takes is if Trump was president, Trump was president. If Trump wanted to pardon me right now, he could say, that fat guy in Ohio, Sean, the best Sean. We have the best Seans out of all the Seans. I'm going to pardon him right now. Never writes it down, but he declares it. And he says it in front of other people. That's a valid pardon. There's proof he did it. Now, why do we have it written down? Because it's a memorialization of it. It's formal. That way it's like we could track it and everything. But the president can pardon somebody orally. So just because he wasn't there doesn't mean anything. Now, let's say he wasn't of sound mind and there was undue influence or coercion or distress. Yeah, I don't think that's going to change anything. You'd have to prove it. And even then, invalidating the pardon sets a bad precedent because they're going to say, well, Donald was the Mad King. All of his pardons are invalid. Only a crazy man would sign these. You see where this goes very quickly. So for the sake of political stability, they're not going to do it. But also, They were signed. They were then recorded in the pub, like they were recorded, and then they were given out to people. Can't take them back. And I don't want to take them back. So, I don't feel comfortable with that. I don't like the result that can bring us. So I don't want it to happen. My hair is like all kind of fluffy today. So that's why. Let's see. So what are you guys saying here? Yeah, only Biden himself can make an issue, maybe. I'm just saying I don't think so. Arson investigator for $49.99. He's saying if what you say about oral orders is true, then why couldn't Trump verbally declassify documents? I didn't say he couldn't. This proves you're a Fed. Well, I mean, there's Trump can declassify documents multiple ways. Like here's a good one. So let's say he's got this, and this is the plans for an IL-2 Shermovic. Let's say this is some sort of secret information, and Trump is sitting there with Macron, or he's sitting there with Justin Trudeau, and he's like, Justin, we've got a security threat. You need to take a look at this. Justin Trudeau's not authorized to see that. But as president, by giving it to him, he's declassified it and allowed Justin Trudeau to have access to it. So you can do it verbally, or he did it there. But yeah, this proves you're a Fed. No, I would agree that Trump could orally declassify things. He could do a lot of this stuff by oral order. It's just by doing it by proclamation in written form is, orderly and kind of makes it so we all know what's going on. That's the reason why writing it down is kind of helpful, in my opinion. So. Speaking of Macron, what do you think the theory that his wife is a man? No, she's not a man. She's just a creeper who went after him when he was a young student. Because that's the thing. They're a teacher-student thing. Robin says Sean could get pardoned on the back of a sandwich wrapper. Yeah. I could go to the White House and Trump be like, Sean, we're gonna eat cheese, we're gonna eat some McDonald's. He could take a fucking McDouble, fucking wipe it off, get his fucking Sharpie out and he could write me a presidential document on that. He could take a hat. He could take my MAGA hat. And I could go see him and I could be like, Mr. President, can you sign this? And he could write a pardon on the bill. He could write out a pardon on the bill. I pardon Sean for all crimes. Signed Donnie. That's effective. That's effective. Cortez says, could Trump rescind a pardon that he gave out if he's still in office? No. Once you grant it, it's gone. It's like a bullet fired out of a gun. You can't get it back. You can't shove it back down the barrel and into the casing. Like toothpaste. Can't put it back in the tube. So. It's like a turd. You can't push it back in. She's a dude. You watch the Candace Owens documentary. Okay, well. Turbot says the president won't pardon you for being fat. No, but he'll say you're so based, though, Sean. You get the Presidential Medal of Based. You're going to have Candace Owens come on and yell at me. I'll fucking yell at her. Don't you worry. I'd like to see a McDouble signed by Trump. It would never mold. Just turn into a paperweight. The auto pen theory is flimsy. I would need to see Biden completely aware he wanted it done. Unaware. He wanted it done. Yeah, but I think there's enough there they can argue he wanted it done. Jefferson says he would have to put conditions in when writing the pardon. Yeah, that's the only thing. So, like, if the pardon was, remember how I said, Chad, the pardon's conditioned on You only get the pardon if you show up on the 4th of July riding a pogo stick. Then that's the only way you get the pardon. But if I ride the pogo stick on the 4th of July and I satisfy all the terms and conditions, it's done. He can't ever take it back. And so far, Trump has done full pardons, full and unconditional pardons. So they're done. He can't undo them. You've never heard of the Alaska Pipeline? No, I have not. I like how Sean is skirting the issue of Biden's own administration declaring him incompetent. They never invoked the 25th Amendment, and that's going to be the defense of that. I'm telling you what's going to happen there. Skirting the issue, yeah, some people have said that, but remember, all it takes to sign it, like if you had a will and you have, let's say you had Alzheimer's, if you signed it when you had a moment of clarity and you could verify that you had that moment of clarity, then it's good. I mean, the whole time you're just like, nah, like, okay, yeah, you're not valid. But remember, he was apparently incompetent, but also nobody wanted to do the 25th. Now, I know the reason why they didn't do the 25th, because it was far better to run wild. You know, they could do what they wanted in a caretaker style of government than letting Kamala become president. I get that, and I understand that, but I'm just saying there was no 25th Amendment issue, so I don't think that's going to change anything. So, Big Mike. Stabby says, quitter talk. Push that turret all the way back up in there. When a black woman tells me Bridget Macron is a man, I sit down and listen. You believe Candace. Garrett says that poor pogo stick. Well, oh. Don't look up the Alaska Pipeline. I won't. Yes, Conor McGregor was at the White House. Yes, he was. And island's being destroyed by foreign invasion. It is 100% being fucking destroyed. Lyman Vandevick is saying, is Trump trying to call into question if First Lady Wilson happens again? Because basically no one will ever revoke the 25th. Yeah, but I mean, like, yes. And if you guys don't know what he means, Woodrow Wilson had a series of strokes. And in 1918, he suffered a debilitating stroke that he was basically bedridden for 1918. At that point, his wife ran the White House. His wife was basically president. His wife did everything. There was no 25th Amendment, and people didn't know what to do, and nobody wanted to tell the world that, you know, there was a stroke. That Wilson had a stroke. Nobody wanted anybody to know. I mean, because like it's the war. The war is going on and the war is raging. Like, we don't want anybody to know. Like that's why it's kind of why we had that issue. And then, you know, after the war was over, became a problem. So nobody wanted to know what's going on. And then, yeah, he got, you know, it kind of got better for him. Like, he got a little better. Like, he can handle some things, but you know, he suffered the stroke. And hold on here. What happened to him? How bad was the stroke? Woodrow Wilson stroke. Okay. Hold on here. Control F. Sierra stroke. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. It was in October 1919. Sorry. So after the war, I forgot. He went to Versailles. He had a stroke that paralyzed him on his left side. And he, you know, only had partial vision in one eye. But yeah, he was thoroughly, injured. He was thoroughly injured. But nobody ever did anything about it. So, but yeah, I think they were, well, the biggest thing is that they invoked the 25th. Kamala would take over, and all those people that were there for Biden would have been kicked out by Kamala. So that was their way of saving power. So it's not the first time they just rolled a president around. Kate just says, ask him now in a dementia state. When he says no, he doesn't remember, boom, pardon's revoked. That's, once again, chat, they've been signed and sent out. Like, it's too late. You can't undo them. So. Oh, everyone, yeah, and everyone in their comments was calling him a rapist, too. Who's getting called a rapist? Wilson's stroke saved the country, yeah. In 1918, good year. Wilson does not get enough derision for being one of the 5 worst presidents, yeah. It happened with FDR as well, yes. FDR had problems, and JFK also at times would have debilitating pain, but he was able to still govern. So, amateur iconoclast, no, I messed up my timeline. He got the stroke after he went to Europe. But if he had the stroke in 1919, he probably had a couple of, like, TIAs or a couple of, like, ischemic strokes. So Coors Light says, yeah, I'm not mad. Yes, Bamala says President Jefferson improved on the first auto pen and used them first. Yes. That means that the Louisiana Purchase is invalid. We've got to invalidate it, chat. Wilson was poisoned. Good. I don't like Wilson because he nationalized the railroads. No, I don't like Wilson because of the Federal Reserve. Oh, yes. No takes backsies, yes. Bella says, ask yourself why they want you distracted so badly. That's true. Why are we worried about that? Let's focus on what's here. JFK had a debilitating headache near the end, yes. To be fair, though, JFK was like, he had been given the last rites. And if you're not aware of this, if you're not a Catholic out there, chat, the last rites are one of your sacraments, and it's what you get as you're dying. You're supposed to get it like on your deathbed. JFK had the last rites administered to him multiple times, like 5 or 6 times. Like things were that bad for him. His health was that bad at times in his life. And when you get a chat, they anoint your hands, they anoint your feet with oil, they anoint your forehead with oil. There's an entire part of it. It's an entire thing. Yes, it's amazing you learn how sick JFK was. Yes. Hold on here. Your Lyman's saying this feels like the resolution will never happen, or as always, the judiciary gets told to eat it and saves face by giving a post hoc delivery of power to the executive. Yeah, I kind of get the feeling we're going to be in that spot, or it's just going to be a massive showdown. Aquila says JFK doesn't get enough derision for all the bullshit he did. We were saved from worse outcome by that bullet. I don't know. I think JFK would have kept us out of Vietnam. So I think that's a good thing. Also, Wilkin did the income tax. Yes. Anderson Cooper said, I was born so premature. I had last rites in the NICU. Yeah. Wait, how did that work if you weren't baptized? Or did they baptize you, then give you last rites? Because, like, you can't get rights if you're not baptized. April Betts saying Reagan, when he had Alzheimer's. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Reagan, there was an issue with that too that kind of got covered up, especially at the very end in like 87 and 88 into 89. Yeah. It was really rough on Reagan. JFK could do an ollie. No. Yeah, JFK would have been 10 million% better than LBJ. I think so too. Ag says they do it all at once. Well, you don't need communion to receive last rites. You don't need communion to receive last rites. Joe Moore says baptism, then anointing. Yeah. I was just thinking how that would work. The bullet. Oh, Lyman saying the bullet gave us LBJ showing Jumbo to journalists. Even Nixon laughed about that. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Wait until you learn about how JFK and his dad stole the election in 1960. I'm sure they did. I don't doubt that for a second. DK Cripple says I was 13 weeks premature in the 80s. Whoa, buddy. That could back the I don't know if you're especially if you're younger, chat, being that premature in the 80s was a death sentence. That was bad. I was baptized Anglican because that was the only denomination there. You gave the last rites, came home, was baptized Catholic. That was 40 years ago. The Anglicans do last rites? I didn't know that. I know it's basically the Catholic Church, just they changed the name on it, but apparently for infants, it's a right of final condemnation for an infant. Yes. And Cortez says, didn't LBJ assert dominance by having meetings while he was taking a shit? Yes. He was very common to sit there and have policy debates while he was pinching a loaf. Yes. Joe says the high church Protestants have sacraments. They're still apostates no matter what they are. Oh, you said commendation, not condemnation. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I was reading it. Yes, the commendation. Sorry. DK Cripple said, yeah, it was 1 pound in 1984. Yeah. Yeah, that's surprising to have made it. Yeah, because that premature is insane during that time. It's still crazy today, yes. But they're it's a very it's something they can do though. They have technology, they have experience. So that's the best thing. That's the thing there. So yes, retard alert. Stop. Stop it. All right, what else we got here? DK says God has me here for something. Definitely he does. I'm glad you're here. Glad you made it. Carrie says I have 2 uncles who were born 12 weeks early in the 60s. Wow. Man, that's like a kid surviving cancer back in up until the 90s and stuff. That was the other thing too. You see these movies where kids would get cancer and stuff. You guys are younger. Childhood cancer, it's still really rough on kids. It can be very fatal. But back in the day when kids got cancer, man, it's like school ended and they were gone for the summer and never came back. Because there wasn't nothing you could do. That's why St. Jude's Hospital got started. Good charity, by the way. Because childhood cancer was that deadly. We didn't know how to fight it. We barely know how to fight adult cancer. You're condemned to have a little one. That's like, Sean, send the babies to the hot place. Well, if they're not baptized, they go to limbo. I know not anymore, but that was the thing for a while. Unbaptized babies went to limbo. Oh, yeah, the NICU was barely a thing in 1984, yeah. Well, in the 60s, it would have been basically a broom closet with a lamp in it. PPP is going to start hollering, yeah. Yeah, no NICU. They just got sent home with a good luck. Yep. Kennedy sent the first Green Berets to Vietnam. I understand he did, but Kennedy would have not done the Gulf of Tonkin. And I would like to think Kennedy, being a good Catholic boy, when the USS Liberty got attacked, he wouldn't have been like LBJ just sucking on their Peter over it. Limbo was a theory, never dogma. Well, yes, the Shriners in their little hats and their little cars fighting cancers for the win. Torgo says, putting babies in limbo is not fair. Because their spines are flexible. Yeah, Nero says cancer research is generally correct. My mother died in cancer in 2004. 20% chance that now her condition has an 80 to 90% survival rate. Yeah. One of your uncles was a twin. The girl only survived a day. Ooh. Wow. So Tim Pool says, yes, this is true. The reason why U.S. infant mortality rate is so high because stillborns are counted in America's infant mortality when most countries don't count that. Yes, because that's how they deflate their stats by looking better. Yep. DK Crumble says the Shriners paid for your surgery in 1999. Cool. Bella says it was a friendly fire incident. I mean, that was a hell of a friendly fire incident. I'm so tired of the Liberty crap. How many friendly fire incidents had the U.S. had? A lot. And JFK wasn't a good Catholic; he was a whore. If he had the chance to get reconciled, if he had the chance to confess, I'm sure he would have been back to being a good Catholic. Kennedy signed off on the Bay of Pigs and was about to invade again before the missile crisis. Yeah, and I think Cuba should have been reconquered. Castro should have been overthrown. It's been a blight on the Western Hemisphere. The Russians came in and they fucking rubbed their balls all over the Monroe Doctrine, and they let that happen. It should have been crushed. So Catholics have low standards, and it's what, man, you gotta ride the brand. You'll learn. It's not low standards. So, all right, chat. I think we are done. I think we're caught up here. I know we'll talk more about the Trump stuff on Thursday because I'm sure there'll be more talk about it. But yeah, nothing's gonna happen. Nothing should happen, and legally you can't do anything else about it. So, Sulfa chat. That's the point about the Biden. If you want the 10-second view of the Biden stuff, Safa. So JFK got too much pussy. How dare he? Well, he also killed a lot of. I'm sure a lot of those women got killed or roughed up. So, So yeah, Chad, I think we're all caught up there. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. I appreciate it. It's been a fun time had by all. And yeah, so remember tomorrow night, try to work and get some I'm trying to find all the Karen Reed docs that everybody had dumped. I know there's a Karen Reed hearing tomorrow, so we're either going to do the docs or Karen Reed her hearing, because there are some court hearings coming up. Karen Reed is still set for trial beginning in April here. The federal courts have not granted her habeas petition, and it doesn't appear she's probably going to get her stayed by the First Circuit. So we're probably going to have trial coming up in about 2 weeks. Model stream, not tonight. It's already 11:30. No, I got stuff to do in the morning. So, but yeah, guys, we're all set. That is the game plan for this week. We're going to get on the Karen Reed stuff and get it going because it's time. Yes. The motions limiting are tomorrow morning. Johan says they're doing it again. Yeah, they're trying Karen Reed again. And I know people are going to get mad when I say this. They probably have a better chance of convicting her this time around. Every time you get back up there, the odds get worse and worse and worse. And if they're still, and I will say this, if they're still going to go with the whole she was framed and John O'Keefe got beat to death in the house, she's going to lose. They should just stick with the fact that the car doesn't match him being dead. The evidence and the injuries aren't consistent with getting hit by a car. I think they should focus on that and then focus on how sloppy the investigation is. I thought they had something with the conspiracy theory, but it didn't pan out well enough for me to support it. So, yeah. Do you think all the with JFK that was always cowgirls because of his back? Yeah. Is the dog bite expert in? Yes. 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 So, with that said, chat, we will be back at it tomorrow. And so just remember until next time, if you're in TDA, you gotta go back. Do you think they get to have like snacks on the plane? That's the only thing I was wondering. Like, do they get at least a snack or a drink? Because like, also if they're handcuffed, would they have to go potty? How does that work? I don't know. Something to think about, chat. Something to think about. Something to think about while you're out there. What kind of chips? Do they get chips and pretzels? And like if they do, like they'll get you salty. It's like, do you get a little glass? Like, does one of the flight attendants come by and like, and then they wrap the napkin around your drink and like, here you go, Mr. Gang member man. And then they keep walking. Like, how does that work? So, chat, take care. I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a nice night.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops. Even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty. But please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fat guy Rick hated yelled at? Why, yes it was, he even knows he's fat. For all this fun and more, there's one place to go. Here on Sean Martin's Potentially Criminal Show.
EDW Raptor for $5 says, I just enjoying the stream. You cannot end it. Watch me. You have no power here.